Everyone makes mistakes. No one's perfect. We can always strive for perfection, but it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Gen Z often feels pressure to have everything figured out early.
I think you really can approach things from either a place of fear or a place of absolute wonderment and excitement. And I've said this to a lot of people before. Fear is not something that I believe, or the unknown rather, is not something I think.
Oh my goodness, I'm 24 and I don't have it together yet.
Yeah.
Who
does?
had it at 24?
And I don't think you need to have it together at 24.
Shouldn't.
You shouldn't. I absolutely agree with you. I think we come from a different generation.
We strive for the word success. And like it could be defined in so many ways.
What does it mean?
So many. What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Right.
Some people will define success purely financially. I've had years where I haven't made as much money as the year prior or the years prior, but maybe I've traveled more.
Welcome to Pivot Mode. Thank you again for joining us. We are wrapping season 1. I cannot believe we are at that point. I wanted to thank you, viewers. We have a couple of more shows left before, but as I said, I cannot thank you enough, my dear viewers, for supporting us and really rooting for us for the past season. And we look forward to so many more seasons to come along. I saved the best episodes for last. And as you know, we start the podcast always with a very poignant and relevant quote that sets the tone for the topic of discussion for the episode. And in preparing for this particular guest, the only thing that could come to mind was betting on yourself. So the quote that hit and tugged at my heart a bit was, bet on yourself. If you're ever in doubt, bet on yourself. Because there's nothing better and nothing that will prevent you from losing other than betting on yourself. And this guest epitomizes that. Took chances on himself, did what he needed to do to create and curate the life that he has designed for himself. And a life it is. With 25 years of immaculate and such impressive work that I just had to literally make notes in order for me to cover it all, because I do not want to miss a beat. So here we go. 25 years in the creative world. He worked for Creative Live Events as a director, producer, show director, show caller. He conceptualizes and created and produced, directed, written scripts, provided voiceovers on so many occasions. He worked in the UAE, KSA, Egypt, in the US, and the UK, and Europe, only to name a few. And Dancing with the Stars is on his resume. He's worked with talents in Britain and Britain's Got Talent and Cirque du Soleil, one of my favorite shows. Has worked with stars stemming from John Legend to my favorite, Trevor Noah. So I could go on for days when it comes to this guest. And I was so honored when I reached out to him and he accepted my invitation to come on Pivot Mode. And without further ado, I will open the floor to him so that he can add on to the introduction that I just presented. So without further ado, David Block.
Thank you so much, Valerie. It's lovely. I'm beaming, like I'm really smiling.
That's the goal. That's
Absolutely.
the goal.
Thank you so much for having me. What a great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It wasn't even a thought when to close the show, to close the season. I said, no. David's got to do it. I need that energy. I need that. So thank you. Thank you so much. Please introduce yourself in your own words now to our viewers.
So, born and raised in Cape Town, South Africa. And I always wanted to be in the performing arts. I always wanted to be in the entertainment industry. That was always something that was at the focus. I never wanted, as I know other kids of my age were, every day either a policeman or a veterinarian, a doctor, a lawyer. Every day was something different. Whereas for me, I was always like, entertainment is my shtick. That's where I knew I was going to eventually land up. And I then went to arts college just outside Johannesburg and landed up staying and working for most of my adult life in and around Johannesburg, traveling across the length and breadth of South Africa and internationally, certainly in the last 15 or so years, working in the live event space. And as you mentioned, the fact that, I'm able to wear multiple hats means that hopefully I can provide great value to any team, any organization. Whether it's been working with artists, the likes of your Trevor Noahs and your John Legends and the likes, or whether it's on some of the biggest live events in South Africa, working and collaborating with artists and valued partners overseas in the creative space. It's just been incredible. I never thought that I would have the kind of varied career that I've had. And even when you were saying a few of the highlights of the places I've worked in and the people that I've worked with, I mean, I couldn't help but smile because sometimes I think you also need to be reminded of the life well lived. You need to be reminded of the things you've done. And especially when, and I know we're going to get to this, when you set up shop in a new place at a pivotal time in your life, both personally and professionally, it does wonders to sometimes hear somebody else talk about you in a way that just gives you that extra bit of motivation. And it reminds you why you are doing what you're doing and why you've taken the decisions you've taken to be where you want to be.
That is so brilliantly said. And I'm happy that that's the emotion that it pulled out of you, because that's the goal. That's the goal of the show. And my goal is to do that. Step back and allow people's light to shine, because we have a tendency to dim it sometimes, right? So it takes special people in your corner to say, we need to shine some light on you just to remind you.
The thing is, I also think it's a generational thing as well. I come from a generation where I think we were very reserved. You never really went out selling yourself in a way that I think today's generation does, and they do it so well. And if I always said one thing about my American friends, and I say this with respect, Americans know how to sell themselves in a way that we always just were maybe a bit more reserved when it came to kind of putting yourself out there. And if there's one thing that I'm now taking forward in terms of lessons learned, it's absolutely own what you've done. Own it and go out there and don't be afraid of what you've done.
That's the thing. Don't be afraid.
No, not at all.
I love it. I love it. Great takeaways. Here, you made a bold midlife move, and we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
Leaving behind everything familiar and starting over in a new country, right? We share that.
I know.
What was the moment you realized you had to pivot?
So it's an interesting one because I've always followed my intuition, and there have always been very specific times in my life where I have felt that change was either necessary or that something was going to happen. And I would go into a particular year feeling like, ooh, this was going to be something quite monumental. I wasn't able to quantify what exactly that was. It was a feeling. It was a hunch. And back in 2022, coming out of COVID, funnily enough, I had one of the best years professionally and financially and in every way possible, work-wise, post-COVID in 2022. But it was also the very same year that I realized, now I need to take everything that I've learned, all the experiences that I've had, the places I've been able to travel to, the relationships I've been able to forge and cultivate, nurture, and I need to look at going one level up again, shifting gears. So for whatever reason, in 2022, I kind of felt that, okay, it was going to happen and I needed to prepare for it. And then for whatever reason, 2024 was the year that I knew it would then happen. So I gave myself 2 years to kind of build up the awareness again of who I was, what I was doing, ensuring that when the move eventually happened, it came from a place of exposure, of experience, and it just so happened that it was in the year that I turned 50, which was not planned. It just, I didn't see it as, midlife crisis, or, at 50, I'm now going to completely pivot, well, if I can use the word, because that's what it is.
Please
and so is. But it just so happened to organically move in that direction. So the change was immediate in 2022. Like I knew I was working toward a change in 2024. And then it happened.
And it happened.
And it happened.
So that's the thing. It's that manifesting and
Yeah.
living the life that you actually saw and
absolutely.
it happening.
Yeah. You have to plan for it though. I don't think it's like waiting for manna to drop from heaven.
Yeah.
I think you can visualize and you can have your vision boards. But I think ultimately you need to be the captain of your ship.
Absolutely.
And you need to steer it in the right direction. You can have the greatest support around you and you can have sunny skies and smooth seas, but you've still got to steer that ship in the direction that you want to go toward.
100%.
And that's exactly what I did. And it was just intuitive, really. Everything I think in my life, so much of what I've done and the experiences that I've had have all been down to just following my gut, following my intuition, which I'm super grateful for, as opposed to being afraid of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, why Dubai?
So interestingly enough, there was a time when I was younger where everything was about the US and or the UK. Specifically, it was either New York, LA, or London in terms of Broadway, in terms of film in LA, or in terms of the West End, in terms of in London. But I think being in the live event space and looking at where things are shifting, there was no doubt in my mind the older I got and the more I used to travel in and out of Dubai, because it wasn't like I decided, oh, let's just go to Dubai. I'd been coming backwards and forwards. I'd been meeting with colleagues here, coming to events here. I had clients that would host events, and then I would work with partners here to assist from an entertainment perspective in helping me get just the right artists to match the brief. And for me, this is where the future is in terms of the UAE, the KSA, the entire kind of Gulf, GCC region, etc. It just feels like everything is happening here. So I knew that the work that I wanted to do, the work that I wanted to be exposed to, with the kind of technology that was going to be available, it was here. And I honestly believe that this region is at the forefront of the live event space and that kind of intersection of AI and live events and how they can support each other. And so it was a no-brainer for me that this was where I wanted to see the next chapter and potentially the final chapter, really, of my career. Because, I mean, let's face it, ain't getting any younger, although I feel young, but this is really, and I'm not afraid to say that this does feel like this is the last chapter. And I'm excited by that because that could be 10 years, it could be 15, 20. You never really need to retire in this industry.
Yeah. And I feel the same way because we also share that we're from the same generation.
Yeah.
And to me, 50 is the new 30.
Oh, hell yes.
I'm like, hello.
Of course.
So here we are redirecting our paths in our lives to have more control over it is such a gift at this age. So when we send out the messages that we want to share on the podcast, it's moments like this to hear the older generations, the more mature generations say, listen, I'm 50 and I either started to figure it out later in life, which has led me to today being so stable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that they do not have the tendency to overstimulate their minds into thinking, oh my goodness, I'm 24 and I don't have it together yet.
Yeah.
Who
does?
had it at 24?
And I don't think you need to have it together at 24.
Shouldn't.
You shouldn't. I absolutely agree with you. I think we come from a different generation where, you would go to school, you would then get married, you would go to college or any kind of university, and then you would land up working as a salaried employee. Maybe you would be an entrepreneur, you would open up your own business. But you would then work for a company. I mean, I have clients of mine in South Africa that worked for the companies they worked for 40, 45 years, which I find astounding. I have huge respect, and that is incredible. But I don't think you're going to find a lot of that in the current generation and in the generations to come. And it's not a good thing and it's not a bad thing. It's a shift in the time. It's a shift in people's perception of what is success and what isn't. And when you are given permission to do certain things. I think back in the day at age 50, you would have been maybe married, you would have had family, you would have had a thriving business, you would have been stable in your career with a great pension to look forward to. Why would you move? If everything was comfortable and you were in your routine, why would you make such a drastic life change at that time in your life? And it is very much starting again for me, hugely so, starting from scratch.
Huge.
But why not? Who says you can't?
Who says you can't? That's
Exactly.
the thing.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
And I love that we share that commonality. I really do.
It is betting on yourself. As you
It's
said at the start of the
betting on
show, it's
yourself.
betting on yourself. I could have easily stayed in South Africa where I am a name and where people do know me. And I very rarely needed to pitch and tender for events. People would come to me because they knew of my experience in the live event space, my background in television, for example, working on some of South Africa's biggest live television events like our South African Film and Television Awards, our National Music Awards. So I keep on saying to people outside of the country, our country's version of the Grammys or our country's version of the Tony Awards, for example, or the Golden Globe Awards. I could have comfortably sat where I was, knowing that this was the kind of work I potentially had coming in. This was the kind of reputation I had. I haven't really worried about work nor money in so long because I've always just known it would be there. Like I always knew as a freelancer, which is in my mind still very much who I am today, and with that mindset, that it would always happen. And you would have highs and lows, you know, when it comes to earning, not earning, etc. That inconsistency, but I've lived my entire life that way. And I could easily have just stayed in South Africa and been very comfortable. It's just not what I wanted. It's honestly not what I wanted. And I want to be challenged with the environment that I work within. I wanted to be excited by what I do. I wanted to feel like I could continue learning and being vulnerable, and especially with where the world is now with AI and so on, you know, to kind of put yourself out there and say, I don't know, and I need to and want to learn is also a very empowering thing, depending on how you look at it.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I'm so glad you said that because the message that you're sending for the younger generation is just that.
Yeah.
That, you know, to be vulnerable, to bet on yourself, to take that chance. You're living proof. You know, I'm living proof. We left our comfort zone.
Yeah. And today's generation is about authenticity, so much more than I think our generation was growing up. You know, we were very much more planned and prepared and rehearsed, which I'm very much an advocate for. I still like being that person when it comes to things. But today's generation is very much looking at who you are authentically, living your authentic self. You know, all these buzzwords that started coming out over the last few years. And it's very, very true. And I think if somebody who's younger or somebody who's older can look at someone like me at 50, 51, as I am now, and rethink what is possible and what's not, and what gives them the license to be able to think outside the box and to be able to take those kind of risks. I used to, for many years, live by the mantra of failure is not an option. And it served me really well because failure is not an option kind of felt quite hard and quite aggressive. It was like, I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I'm not going to fail. Everything that I do, I'm going to make sure that I learn from. I'm going to pick myself up. I'm going to make sure I'm a success wherever I am, however, whatever. And a friend of mine recently said to me, why do you approach it from that perspective? Because if you were to look at it as success is the only option, it's the same thing. It's just not as aggressive. It's far more positive. It's far more affirming. And so, interestingly enough, when I then made the shift to Dubai, as opposed to thinking I'm coming to Dubai and failure is not an option, failure is not an option, I came to Dubai with a mindset of success is the only option. And it is. It's so much more, I don't know, exciting to approach it from that perspective. So it's that glass half full, half empty, silver cloud is the silver lining. It's how you perceive things. And yeah, it was very much that, okay, how do you perceive something? Failure is not an option versus success is the only option. And it is a kinder way. It's a far more exciting, accepting, I don't know, gung-ho kind of feel as opposed to being always on the defensive.
Yeah.
It felt far more positive. So success is the only option. And I think how you approach something and what your mindset is very much in tune with, I think, today's generation.
And it's such great self-talk.
Yeah.
Right? Because
I
at
always
some
talk to myself.
point, at
Always.
some point, you are your only person moving into a new area, getting to, familiarize yourself with the space.
Yeah.
You need that self-talk. So I like the twist of, success is the only option. We have no choice but to move forward with that.
And to be a success.
I love it. Now, to piggyback off of that,
Yeah.
Gen Z often feels pressure to have everything figured out early.
Yeah.
What would you say to them about the freedom and power of restarting at any age?
I think you really can approach things from either a place of fear or a place of absolute wonderment and excitement. And I've said this to a lot of people before. Fear is not something that I believe, or the unknown rather, is not something I think you should fear or that needs to be feared, just because you don't know what the unknown is. And once again, it's how you approach certain things, how you view certain things. I think the older we get, the less, we forget about what it means to be a child. Children are fearless. They don't think about the consequences a lot of the time, and are they going to fall and hurt themselves?
No, we're going to jump off that cliff.
That's exactly what they're going to do. So you need to approach, certainly I did, and it worked well for me, is I'm excited by what I don't know. And it's a challenge, and it's an adventure. So, okay, I have no clue what's going to happen next week, or what's going to happen in 6 months' time, or where I will be in a year. I can't foretell the future. But I can go in with an attitude that hopefully kind of brings to me exactly the energy that I'm kind of giving off. So I don't believe that there is an age. I think you need to stop seeing things in terms of age, in terms of at this age I have to do this, by this age I have to be that. And I think if you turn 30 and you suddenly want to completely change your career, or you hit 50 and you suddenly feel like, you know what, I'm in a position to be able to make an entire location change, go for it. Why would you want to stagnate? Why would you want to stay in a place that doesn't serve you? And so take the risk, but see it as an adventure rather than something that's going to kind of keep you grounded and anchored to a place you just don't want to be. I could never live my life that way. Honestly, I couldn't.
That's so good. That's so good. Now, in that spirit, how were you able to handle the challenges that you did face?
You just kind of face them head on. Somebody that I looked up to when I was starting out in the industry, a very successful businessman, he had his own tech company. And he always said to me, David, you can control the controllables, and the uncontrollables, you can do nothing about those. And that's pretty much what it is. So you can talk yourself into fearing something. You can talk yourself into not doing something. But the reality is that everyone is almost in the same boat. And so failure doesn't necessarily determine the entire outcome of what it is you're trying to achieve. But you make those mistakes and you pick yourself up. So coming to Dubai, I think we all land up in situations where we spend more money than what we actually need to as we kind of find our footing, whether it's paying unnecessary fines, whether it's not having the right apps downloaded. So you rely on your network. Speak to people who you trust. I think in anything, speak to people who you trust. Yes, there's a lot available online, and I did go online and I watched a lot of YouTube videos in terms of people that had come over to Dubai and what they liked, what they didn't, things to be aware of, pricing, places to stay, all that kind of stuff. But until you actually do it yourself and until you experience it yourself, you don't really know, do you?
You don't know.
No.
You don't know.
You don't.
And I'm glad that you said that, because people who see us make drastic moves like this think we have it all figured out.
Oh, hell no.
No, we do not.
So not. I'm still figuring things out.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm now figuring things out. And the good thing is, through our trials and tribulations, we're able to pass the baton to the next person and say, oh, no. This is where you go for your driver's license as opposed to. This is the day that you go for your driver's license as opposed to. So with that, we become a talking, and walking evidence of how this can work. It can work.
But that's also indicative of our generation.
That's so true.
And I've been seeing things, and I don't know if it's algorithms or what it is, but I've been seeing stuff all across my social media of these content creators that are kind of like Gen X. And they're talking about how, how we would go outside. Our parents would basically kick us out the house and go play.
Yeah.
And you'd be out the whole day. You'd go cycling in the woods. You would fall off, hit your head. There were no helmets. We had the worst playground equipment that was always rusting, and that, the seesaw and that spinning thing that everyone would spin. That hot slide that you would burn your skin on. We did all of that stuff. We're still here. So I kind of feel like, okay, you know what? If I'm still here at this age, then what is potentially going to knock me down that I can't kind of dust myself and pick myself up and move forward with? And so that's how I approach everything. I think we don't need to be defined by the moment that we fail and the moment that we make the mistakes. I think that's where you as a person, as an individual, in terms of your strength of character and your confidence and all of that comes in terms of how quickly you can pick yourself up, dust yourself off. Don't linger on, the pain and the anguish and the fact that you let yourself down, you let somebody else down. Just pick yourself up, honestly, and just go.
Yeah.
Keep on going.
Yeah.
There are other people in the world that are being judged for far less than you.
Exactly. And be able to be so anchored in who you are that you don't mind apologizing. You don't mind saying, oh, no, that was my complete oversight. I'll do better next time. Like, to me, as a leader, I would so respect that more and see that vulnerable moment where you recognize where we went wrong, you shifted, you pivoted, you fixed it. So much better than hiding behind, we just don't make mistakes.
Well, that goes back to the authenticity again. Yeah. Coming from a generation where you'd look at people within business and in leadership, and it was almost like they were perfect. They couldn't make mistakes. We're seeing people make mistakes, and they're owning it. Some people are potentially called out in public, especially people that have a profile. And there are times when I look back and I think they're just as human as the rest of us. Do they honestly think that criticizing them, when you should be looking internally at yourself and the people that you live with or are part of your life? Everyone makes mistakes. No one's perfect. We can always strive for perfection, but it's not going to happen. So when you own it, I feel like you're far more relatable at whatever age you are, because then it means people can relate to you. And that for me is so important. People have asked me, what do I want to be known for? And I always thought that meant professionally, what did I want to be known for? And only recently have I realized, because I think I was so frustrated with people asking me, so what is it that you want to do, or what is it that you want to be known for? I just want to be known as someone who was kind, someone who people enjoyed working with, someone who, when my name was on a call sheet, or I was cast for something, or they saw that they'd be working with me, would genuinely be excited because there's an energy that I bring. There's maybe a calmness or a vibe, and that's what they want to be. So it could be any industry. Honestly, it could be any industry. But I just want to be known, and especially when you look at the status of the world today, just to be the best version of yourself that you can be, and be a kind, honest person who just tries to do good. I kind of think, for me, what more could I want?
And that, to me, is a success story, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because we strive for the word success, and it could be defined in so many ways.
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Right?
Some people will define success purely financially. I've had years where I haven't made as much money as the year prior or the years prior, but maybe I've traveled more for work or personally, or maybe I've suddenly got the opportunity of working with a SEAL or a John Legend, or I've been able to go to the Grammy Awards in LA and walk the red carpet, be a guest in the studio of Dancing with the Stars in Los Angeles, and see how that production works, and know that I can learn from and absorb like a sponge, take everything in. That, for me, can determine success. I'll come out of a year and feel like I've had one of the most successful years. Financially, not necessarily, but in every other way, personally and professionally, hell yeah. So it really depends, once again, how you look at it. Yeah. Are you being defined by societal norms and by the definitions of words that you knew you grew up with? Or are you kind of redefining them for yourself? Yeah. And for me, there are certain words like success that is not defined purely by finances. And I know for some people it still is. Not for me.
No, not for me either. Not for me either. And I love that you're highlighting that, because of the societal pressure, like you said, right? Between social media, content creators,
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It is a lot that this generation is overstimulated, overconsumed.
But not even this generation, our generation.
That's so true. But our generation, we're a little bit more resilient. So we're
Possibly,
like, we'll statch this one a little bit to the side, because we know that there's a little bit of fabrication behind that.
Yeah.
Whereas this generation really feeds off of that and thinks that is the life.
Yeah.
And why am I not here at 25? Why am I not here at 30?
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, no. This is fabricated. This before this person got to this, ask them their backstory.
I am very glad that I was able to grow up in a generation that didn't have social media, didn't have the internet and email like I am. And it's not I'm not dissing anyone. Certainly not, Gen Z and the millennials and so on. But I'm very grateful that I had it because I feel like that has given me a sense of grounding, which I think in this day and age you so need. The pressure of being able to be the CEO of your own business and to have found the meaning of life at such a young age, at 25, if we just use that as an age, as a number. That's frightening for me that people are being expected to either be in that position or people are feeling that this is where I need to be at such a young age. It's ridiculous. You want to be out there and you want to make mistakes and you want to learn and you want to experience and all of the kind of things that are going to give you a life well lived, to give you the experiences that you can then share. I don't have all the answers. I still have a lot of insecurities now. You have imposter syndrome. Are you as good as you think you are? You're looking at what some of these new COVID. I was very fortunate to still work quite regularly during COVID because I was able to pivot to a degree where we worked in studio.
Okay.
And certainly it worked, and I used all of my knowledge within the TV space. But you were being inundated with all these new apps that you could work with and platforms that you could host conferences and events on. And I started panicking because I remember thinking, but I'm not a content creator. I'm not a software developer. I'm not a gamer. And I was suddenly working with these young kids who would create these most amazing virtual worlds. I don't know how to do that, and I don't want to know how to do that. But it was amazing to be able to work with these youngsters that could do that, where suddenly the likes of a Minecraft could actually be an incredible environment to kind of place your podcast. This really cool 3-dimensional virtual world, and why not? So for me, I don't have all the answers, and I'm still nervous about things, and I look at what's expected of people like us today to be our own social content creators and edit our own videos and be out there, and which potentially takes away from the core things that we actually want to do. But if you can find that happy balance, which hopefully we do, and you can pull yourself back knowing the kind of life we had when we were young and where we grew up, hopefully you can find that happy balance, and hopefully that gives you an opportunity to then mentor or provide advice that a lot of younger people who are feeling overwhelmed today, hopefully they can take it from you and appreciate it.
Yeah. And I love that you said that because it brings me back to the foundation. So I'm going to take you back a little bit to explain your upbringing and how solid that foundation was, so much so that the bottom of the pyramid for you is so strong that as you build your pyramid, you always had that foundational strength, right? From family, from culture, from where you grew up, your beautiful country. So take us back to that foundation.
It's such a good question because I'm trying to think like where it could have all started. And it's definitely a culmination of things. I grew up in a wonderfully loving home. I enjoyed school. I'm not saying that there wasn't any form of bullying or name calling, but it was certainly never to the degree that I'm aware young kids experience today, and nor that I think that whatever I may have experienced back at school kind of created that much psychological trauma that I need to now revisit because it's impacting my life today. There are things that I absolutely do think about, but I think for me, because I always knew what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be, I was so focused on that. And I think when I was in my second year of college, I became to accept myself a lot more in terms of the person I am, in terms of the person I wanted to be. I never succumbed to peer pressure, interestingly enough. I'm not saying that I was an angel at school, and yes, we all did things and we tried things, but hey, I'm still here today. Touch wood. But I once again, I think I always had a focus in terms of what it is that I wanted to achieve. And I think because I wanted to go into an industry that nobody wanted me to go into, I was so determined to be successful and to prove everyone wrong that it could be a sustainable industry, the entertainment industry, even though, it's freelance. And back then it was just never seen as the kind of industry you would go into. I was determined to show people that it could work. And then with my training, and the fundamentals of my musical theater training, acting, singing, dancing, speaking, being on stage, being in front of an audience, that I think served as the main foundation for everything that I've now taken into my adult life, because there was such a grounding and such a training in that, which has informed so much of the decisions that I take and the approach of two things that I take now. So that for me was important. And even though I'm not necessarily a full-time performer, I mean, I do still MC now, and there's more opportunity here in the UAE for me as a middle-aged man, for example, to MC.
That is so
and suddenly I'm like, I'm loving that. I'm like, appreciate it. I'm like, yes. Like I came here thinking one thing, and now I'm like, oh, hang on a second. I could actually MC a lot more here and actually make that more of my day-to-day profession, if you will, doing voiceovers. And so much of the performing stuff has translated into the decisions and the things that I've done, whether it's going in for interviews, whether it's a sales pitch, whether it's walking into a room and owning that room. So much of what you learn in the audition process for roles that you want to take on, and the kind of things that you learn when you're on stage, and the more experience you have being on stage in front of an audience and speaking, all of those things have informed me. So it's a combination of stuff, but a lot of it I think would be, if I had to now simplify it, being very accepting of who I am and knowing who I am. I mean, look, there are days, definitely. We don't always have all the answers.
We're
so
human.
Let's not kid. We're human. But knowing who I am and what I want, and taking from everything that I have learned, personally and professionally, to inform who I am now and what I do now.
That's brilliant.
And it's you're never going to hit the top of the pyramid. I think that pyramid will always keep on growing.
It will.
And that's one thing I've always said. I've never wanted to feel like I've arrived. I've always wanted to feel, and I know it's so cliched when you talk about the journey and whatever, but it is so true. Like, don't ever feel like you are just the bee's knees. You want to feel like you are constantly evolving, that you're open to learning, that you're open to new challenges, and that you're open to collaboration. It's not about walking into a room and saying it's my way or the highway. Okay. Irrespective of how old you are and how experienced and how many awards you think you've won and how fabulous you think you are, it's important to be able to walk in and for people to feel comfortable with who you are and know that they're in a space where they can criticize and or give advice or make alternative suggestions. Because that's how I approached everything I did. So why would I expect anything less of the people that I'm working with?
Absolutely. And providing that safe space.
Oh, absolutely.
For those conversations to take place.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm enjoying this so much.
We've probably deviated from some of the things
you may have
wanted to speak about, but it's just lovely having a conversation.
And that's exactly the tone that we set for the podcast every time. It's conversation based.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for being on that journey with me.
Thank you.
Now, in moments where you question your decision, what kept you anchored? A person, a belief, a mantra, like what's your go-to?
Once again, as I mentioned earlier, success is the only option.
Love that.
So when I have days where I do question, I've been in Dubai now for just over a year. Okay. And on my bad days, I remind myself that I'm allowed to have bad days, but that my decision to come is never in question. So I know it's the right decision. This is where I need to be now, and I have no doubt that everything that I've done to get to this point is correct. But yes, there are days where you feel a little bit and so you give yourself the time to kind of question and to feel a bit sad and to feel lonely and to question whether you're good enough, whether you're going to do what it is that you need to do, and then you pick yourself up. And then you focus again on what those things are. Being a lover of fashion and all things creative, Donatella Versace, and I don't know if she's credited for actually saying this or if she picked it up from someone else, but she said, creativity comes from a conflict of interests. And I know you love your quotes. And I love this whole thing of creativity comes from a conflict of interests. So it kind of reminds me that I'm not expecting myself to come into Dubai and be the bee's knees when it comes to all things creative. But it comes from really a great space of contradiction and being able to discuss what might be the best. Because certainly in my industry, I don't believe there's ever one creative that is just the sole creative and this is the through line, because for me so much is collaborative and so much of what I do is bringing people into that space and being able to talk openly and honestly and make suggestions and say if you don't necessarily agree with something. Yes, you still have to drive the ship, but it's lovely to be able to have other people's thoughts and ideas because they can just help. You're not working in a silo. So I love the idea of creativity comes from a conflict of ideas because I feel like that's so true. I feel like it's so true. So for me, it's probably those two things. Creativity comes from a conflict of interests, which is something that I read and saw, and it's on my website actually, because I just loved Donatella Versace, and I loved what it actually meant because it encompassed absolutely everything, even my fears and even the things that I was questioning, and the things that I was excited about. But first and foremost, success is the only option. Do not self-sabotage. Do not allow all those negative thoughts to come in, because when you start playing out scenarios and things that haven't even happened yet, and then you start getting, I'm all for imagination and talking to yourself, trust me, because I do. And I'm so grateful to have that. Yeah. But at some point you have to kind of put the brakes on it and be like, okay, hang on, steer the ship. There's going to be a bit of a bump in the road, or there's going to be a bit of a storm, and the seas might be a bit more wavy than what it was yesterday, but just steer the course. Steer the course. And be vigilant in that.
I love it. I love it. Now, Gen Z is faced with constant comparison.
Yeah.
All right. We were talking about that earlier as well. How did you avoid comparing your new beginning to your old life or to others around you? Or was that even...
I think I still compare.
Right?
I do.
And I'm happy that we're saying it at this age.
Absolutely.
So that when the younger generation does it, we're like, we get it.
We get it.
Everybody does that.
But then sometimes you need the reminder of, actually, I am in a position of whether it's authority or credibility or knowledge, because I've lived a life, I've had experiences. You mentioned 25 years in the business. The funny thing is that my very first professional show was as an 8-year-old, which was 43 years ago. That was my very first professional foray into live theater. I knew already then that I wanted to be on stage. So I feel like I've had a career that's spanned over 40 years in my mind. Yeah. And as much as I will go in and there will be days where I will question and there's a feeling of doubt and the negative thoughts creep in, to hear someone like yourself remind me of who I've worked with and what I've done and what I've achieved is actually really incredible. Because I think you can take that and own it and enjoy it and be like, absolutely, why not? Because hopefully that's what kind of also guides somebody when it comes to making the decision to work with me. It's not necessarily solely based on a degree or how much money I have in the bank or how much influence I have or how many followers I have on social media. But it's a question of, we like this guy and he's real and he brings an energy and he brings a calmness, and that's the kind of vibe we actually want on set or in our ballroom or wherever. And so, it's constantly that kind of like push and pull, that tug of war between one day you're super confident and the next day you're like, I'm not too sure. How am I feeling? But then you know what? You got to fake it till you make it.
You fake it till you make it.
You can walk into a room and feel like, ooh, I just don't know. And who am I going to talk to and how am I going to come across? But that might be happening here and behind, the eyes, but don't show it.
Don't show
it at all. Go in there and fake it till you make it.
Oh my God. Rihanna says that all the time.
It's so true. I never went out of my way to be a script writer, for example. And when I say script writer, I mean script writer for live events and for MCs and so on. Not necessarily for film or television, but for awards events and for corporate year-end launches and so on. But I remember and it was on a television set, and the producer suddenly piped in through our ears and she was, our MC's coming in a couple of hours for rehearsals, and I've just realized no one's written a script for her. I was like, I'll do that. I thought I enjoy the English language. I read. I have a relatively good command of the English language. Going by my results at school, not so great, But I was like, well, I'm just going to say I can do it. It wasn't like I had any experience. I hadn't written a script formally for anyone. And then I did. And then it took that. And then there was another one, and then another one, and another one. And now today, every so often, I still get to write scripts for people, which is great. And so much of what I've experienced over the years has come as a direct result of there being a gap and somebody's saying, oh, we need this. Can someone do it? Yes. And then you worry about it afterwards. And at least now we have AI. You can quickly go onto ChatGPT and Claude AI and Perplexity to go, how can I quickly do this? Or do you have a template I can follow or something, which we didn't have back then.
We didn't.
But you just went in with absolute, once again, sheer abandonment and excitement of, I'm just going to do this as a child. And even somebody, and I had this discussion relatively recently. Somebody said to me, what did you do for your 50th? And I said, I was here in Dubai, so it was very low key because I literally just moved over in the same month that I turned 50. But I'm the kind of person that could have spent my 50th going on the rides at Disney World in Orlando, Florida. That for me would be the best way of celebrating a birthday. Taking a bunch of friends and going to a theme park, Universal Studios. That's why I think I also like Dubai, because they've got so many amazing theme parks.
That you could turn into a child again.
And it's not even turning into a child again. It's just I think in some ways have such a childlike mentality and approach to things. And it's such fun.
It's such fun. People don't get us.
No.
I say the same thing.
I don't want to be prim and proper all the time.
No,
and
I don't.
I'm a creative. So I'm not expected to wear suits in meetings. I mean, I know the culture has changed a lot and people will wear suits, but without a tie, they'll wear a formal shirt. But I'm the kind of person that's this is who I am. Who you see is what you get. I'm bubbly. I talk a lot. Sometimes I talk really quickly because I have an energy and I have a lot to say. And so then the words just come out. And when I'm on camera or on stage, I have to always consciously remind myself to enunciate and breathe and speak slowly and make sure people can hear you and have those dramatic pauses and think about what you're going to say, which I know sounds like a lot more of a thought process, but I mean, it's instinctive.
Natural.
It's natural. It's instinctive. But I don't ever want to lose that childlike way of approaching things, whether it's talking to myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
Whether it's taking my shampoo bottle again and accepting my umpteenth Academy Award.
Yeah.
I've won more Academy Awards than Meryl Streep.
Listen,
in my mind, I've made so many acceptance speeches, and who knows, maybe one day it might still happen.
Do you see? And I love that about our generation. This is why. I recently had a conversation, and I've had these conversations with my own children, and then as an educator myself, so I have my students. The cynicism and the lack of belief that one can be joyful and one can be content and one can be happy blows my mind on how much that generation does not, but this generation does not believe in that.
And I don't know
to
why.
the point where my students, if we would wrap up the end of the year and they said, we didn't believe in you. When we met you, we said, there's no way somebody could be that bubbly, that happy, care about us that much. And I had to literally win.
Without there being an ulterior motive.
Without there being an ulterior motive.
Because then there must be. Why would you be so nice to me?
Why? Yeah. What's in it? What's in it for you?
Correct.
So I had to literally buy their trust and wheel them into, no, this is who I am. I am this joyful. I am this happy. I am this, animated person.
But I think it's because that's who you are intrinsically. It's not, no one's taught you to be like that or to think like that, which is the same for me. I'm very grateful that that's who I am naturally.
Yeah.
But no one taught me that. And I think it must be so difficult for anyone who doesn't naturally think like that. And it's not something you can teach and you can give advice, but if you're not inherently that kind of positive, bubbly person, it must be very difficult. And I sympathize with people who don't automatically go to that and who will always see the glass as half empty before they see it as half full. And like I said, it wasn't anything that I was taught, but what I loved was when I would read books like The Secret years ago when The Secret came out. And
my goodness.
The TV series with it as well. And they are all these incredible motivators and self-help books that you can buy. And now they're things online, I mean, you can just go into ChatGPT and ask a question in terms of how can I be a more positive person, for argument's sake. I'm so glad when I do read these things and I come across sayings and quotes. So much of that I do instinctively, which I'm super grateful for. But how or why I think like that, I have absolutely no idea. But not every day. There was a commercial on South African television for a mattress.
Okay.
And the commercial would always start with this woman who would wake up and stretch and be awake and the birds are chirping outside and the sun is shining. And I always wanted to be like that person. But I mean, the reality is far from. I remember watching an episode of Absolutely Fabulous with Jennifer Saunders, and there's one episode where she pulls open her curtains in the room, which of course they've got blackout, and then the sun streams in, and she almost like kind of like falls over backwards because the sun is so bright, and she's got dry mouth, and she's got sleep in her eyes, and she looks terrible, and the hair's all a mess. I mean, that's reality. That's who we are when we wake up in the morning. Not everyone wakes up ready to embrace the world, feeling like they've got a bounce in their step, All of us are taking our multivitamins and our energy fizzes and things that we might need to take, and we're trying to eat healthily because, we live in a society, we live in a world where you need to look after yourself, both inward and outwardly. But not every day is going to be a happy day. Some days you're going to wake up and you're going to feel the weight of the world on your shoulders. And then there are days, and those are the days that I look forward to, and those are the days that I remind myself I'm going to have and will have always. Those are the days that you then kind of remind yourself you will have. Even on the days where you feel like, I just want to stay in bed. But then stay in bed if you can. Who says you can't? Watch sad movies. Cry. Have a day like that.
I know.
Actually, it's quite cathartic. It's actually lovely to have that. Get it out of your system.
It is.
And then tomorrow, wake up and start again.
Wake up and start again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And make the decision that it's going to be a different day.
Exactly.
Right?
But it's not always easy for everyone.
It's not. That's the thing. It's not easy to be able to pull back and feel those emotions, label those emotions, recognize those emotions, and then say, okay, tomorrow's going to be a different day.
And it's not because we have all the answers. And what you were saying earlier in terms of how do we give people that license to be excited about life and to feel like they can take chances. How do we impart this kind of knowledge, in terms of what works for us, necessarily working for someone else? I don't know, but all we can do is share the best of what we have, like I said, of a life well lived, that hopefully people, when they look at us, will value, because it's too easy now to get advice from everyone. Whether it's online, offline, wherever, and you bombarded and overwhelmed by every single person's response. Find people in your life, in your social circle, in your close contact group, who you really trust, who you can be open and honest with, and who can hopefully inspire you and empower you on the days where you just feel like it's a bit too much, because that's okay too.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And I love the way, because as we're wrapping up, I love that you brought it
already
full circle. We were having so much fun.
Having so much fun.
But you took it full circle by saying how important it is to have that support system.
Oh, yeah.
And that, trusting circle of friends that can wheel you back. And this generation is a little bit isolated because everybody's behind a screen, everybody's in their own space. So it makes it really difficult for that generation to build that support system. So I'm happy you said that, find those people, find your people.
And I think the older I get, the more I want to do that. The more I want to, and the more I actually enjoy speaking to young kids. Like I have often spoken at schools back in South Africa, and certainly when it comes to people that are in arts college, and speaking about the career that I've chosen and how that has impacted on my life, and speaking to young kids in terms of it's okay to not necessarily know what it is that you want to do. Not everyone is going to finish high school and do what their parents years ago told us to do, where you had to study certain subjects and then you had to go in for certain degrees because that's what everyone did. And it's okay to be uncertain. And the older I get, the more I really enjoy talking to young people, irrespective of the generation, because you just want to tell people, like, it's okay. We don't have the answers to life, but we're still here and we're still ticking and we're still fumbling along and we're making mistakes. But you know what? It's okay. And no one's judging us. And if they are, then you know what? That's their issue. It's not ours.
Boom.
Boom. Mic drop.
Mic drop. Oh my goodness! As you feel the same way, I could stay here for hours.
I know. I've so enjoyed this. I hope that we've been able to connect with people in a way that
I'm sure we
hopefully
have.
People will want to hear more. Or
absolutely. So that's exactly what I was going to say. You're stuck with me. This is This is our
I'm
first,
here.
but not our last. I have a tradition with the podcast where I close out by throwing out some, fireworks.
Yes.
And you have nanoseconds
Okay.
for your brain to hash it out and exactly.
Okay.
And say what comes out the very first
Yes.
thought, right?
Okay.
Because if you start thinking about it, then we lose you.
Oh,
right?
no, that's always such a tricky one because you want to make sure you say the right
authenticity to come out,
Got
right?
you.
So
Okay.
here we go. You ready?
Yep.
Courage.
Strength.
Unlearning.
Ooh. Unlearning. Having permission to do so.
That was a breath of fresh air.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, because you can unlearn. It's
Yeah.
okay to unlearn something just
Yeah.
because you were told something.
Yeah. If it doesn't work for you, unlearn it.
Give yourself the
Absolutely.
permission to unlearn it.
Oh, I love that. My favorite word, pivot.
Woo, pivot. It's more of a thought and a feeling. That
Okay.
I think pivot for me is just like, go for it. Like, embrace it. Embrace the word pivot. Don't fear it.
Oh, I love that. Discipline.
Focus.
Self-discovery.
Ooh, self-discovery for me is about being kind to yourself, because love yourself with your flaws, love yourself with every fiber of your being, where you know there's good things and bad things about you, but that's what makes you you.
Oh, I love it.
I'm not really answering in like one word answers here, but it's yeah.
You got me teary-eyed. So you
Good.
you
That's
did
a good
well.
thing.
You did well. Because more and more people need to hear these things, right? And I say this all the time about the podcast, and my husband dreads when I do it. But it's not a pop culture podcast. It's not a gossipy podcast. But my mission and my vision for it is to have moments like this.
Yeah.
Right? The human moments.
Yeah.
Because we've lost that through the years.
We have.
And to me, it is our responsibility to bring that human side to life back to the forefront.
I so agree. I couldn't agree with you more on that. And for me, if ultimately we can be a positive force for change, that for me is what motivates me. It also drives me, and it's exciting. Because irrespective of what people are doing and what people are seeing online, offline, in the world today, human connectivity is so important. And that's why I also feel like there will always be a place for us in the world and the things that we do, because you cannot take away that human connection with people.
Oh, I couldn't say it any better. Thank you for closing the show the way you did. You are not a stranger. Please understand that Pivot Mode is your second home.
Thank you.
We will have more amazing conversations down the line.
I look forward to it.
And you know how much I'm a big fan. So anything that you're doing, I will be there to support.
Thank you.
Please share with the viewers how they can contact you, what's the best way.
So I think the easiest is, and I think if I look at kind of where we are in the world today, probably the easiest is Instagram, at Mr. David Bloch. That's MrDavidBloch.
As opposed to K.
As opposed to K.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still that new kid on the block. So Mr. David Bloch. My website is www.davidblochint.com. And my contact details are on there as well. So it's super easy to find me. And I tend to be really good, I try at least, to get back to people when they do message me, etc. I'm quite good with DMs.
You are.
But it's also important. I mean, I ain't that famous.
But
you know what I'm saying? I can still manage, hopefully, any inquiries, any messages that come through. So, and it would be amazing, to connect with people. So thank you for that.
Perfect. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And as always, it has been such a pleasure to bless our stage with such great minds, and the messages that come through with our amazing guests is my part of my love letter to the generations behind me, because that is the legacy that I want to leave behind. Just making sure that you are heard, you are loved, you are felt, you do not feel isolated, because you have great people that support you, that understand, and want nothing but the best for you. So lean on us. Lean on us. As always, thank you so much for joining. And I know I struggle with this, but I'm going to get this. Please follow follow us, leave messages, and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and comment on the show. Bam. I got it. Yes, I could never. But until next time, I could never, ever nail that.